Hey guys, welcome back to day 4 of the Consumed Daily Devotional. This is what we're doing. It's day 4, guys. We're like halfway there. Today is titled Holy Fear. It's titled Holy Fire, Holy Fear. I'm going to lower this. And today's verse is Exodus 3:5. And it says, Then he said, Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet. For the place on which you are standing is holy ground. I did already do some notes for the verse. I'm well prepared. A lot of it just goes to what I wrote for the daily devotional. And this verse is just taken out from when Moses encounters God in the burning bush and being in the presence of God's holiness. God told Moses to do 2 things to kind of honor this place where he was present, and it was to not come near and to take off his sandals. The not come near, God's presence is commanding holiness. Where God is a holy place, and it was just a show of his holiness, his power, and he was demanding holiness. Even when you think of the temple, there was the veil when the high priest would go and do the sacrifices and put the string around his ankles. You were entering into a holy place, and it's just a picture of that. And now God resides within us, and we are commanded to be holy because we are the temple of a holy God. So there's that part, and it says, do not come. Okay, take off your sandals. This was just so Moses could acknowledge that, one, this was a holy place, but it also showed his humility in respecting this place. And it shows that he recognized that God was holy and that he deserved to be treated as such. But this was an acknowledgement of the reverent surrender and unmatched holiness owed to God, and it was an act of humility, because we must never forget who we are approaching. And I wrote that in the daily devotional too. And then for the place on which you are standing is holy ground, and it's just remembering that the ground was not holy. God's presence made it holy. God is the one who makes something holy because he himself is holy. My allergies are so bad today, guys. In the devotional, I don't think I've been reading the devotional, but I wrote, many of us want to be on fire for God without the fear of God. We want his power without his presence, his blessings without holiness. But we must remember that fire does not only draw us close, but is meant to purify. And I know as I was writing this, I was using a lot of the stuff that, obviously I was going through what I felt like I needed writing this and working through it. God works through me. It's a lot of the stuff that I put here is a personal thing that I'm writing, because it's not like, oh, I feel like everyone needs to be holy, needs to be purified, so let me write about this. It's like, no, I needed that reminder that my life needed to be holy, that God is meant to be purifying us and sanctifying, that God is meant to be purifying me and sanctifying me, and I'm supposed to be drawing closer to him and becoming more like Christ. So as I was writing these things, I was really writing to myself, and it's like a reminder to myself to remember one, who God is, and have a right view of him, but never forget who he is either. But what I love about this section, even with Moses, is that no, God said, do not come near. God did not say, I don't want you with me. He cannot be defiled by unholiness. We are unholy. But he still wanted that relationship with Moses. He still appeared before him. He still spoke to him. Moses was still in the presence of God. And I think a lot of the times we get so stuck on, there's 2 extremes where we come to God and we forget who he is and how holy he is. We treat him like a genie, and we we abuse his grace and we abuse his love and his kindness. And then there's the other end of it where we are so hyper focused on God being this God who is to be feared, that our fear stops being holy fear and it just becomes us afraid of God and coming to him like a scared child versus seeing him as a loving parent. And we need to be somewhere in the middle where we come to him with all our little problems and our big problems and the little things, just telling him about our day, coming to him as a loving parent in that casualness, but also remembering who he is and having that holy fear, that reverence of him, being in awe of who he is, and knowing who we are approaching and knowing that he is holy and that we are not. And that's why we must come to him with our hearts pouring out to him. And that's just something I needed to be reminded of, because I definitely can teeter on both ends. I'll start off like on one end where I'm super casual and I'm like, no, like this is God. And then I become so focused on how holy God is that I believe he's not approachable anymore. And that is not true. We see that here with Moses. Though where God was, it was holy, he still called Moses to him. He still appeared before him. He was still allowing Moses in his presence. But it was just understanding that right view of who he was approaching. The further reading for today is Leviticus 10, 1 through 3, and then in Revelations. Leviticus 10, 1 through 3. Oh, I put this story. It says, and now Nadab, the names, and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his censer and put fire in it and laid incense on it and offered unauthorized fire or strange fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. And the fire came out from before the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, this is what the Lord has said. Among those who are near me, I will be sanctified, and before all people, I will be glorified. And Aaron held his peace. So Aaron's sons acted contrary to God's will, and their immediate judgment by God was very dramatic. But it was an example to the people that God demands holiness, that God demands to be obeyed. And I think sometimes we can read scriptures like this and have that fear of God, but we need to understand that God is holy. There is a harsh punishment for those who do not see him. It wasn't just that they burned this off fire. There must have been a part of them that thought that they could do what they wanted. They disobeyed God's direct order on how he wanted to be praised and how he wanted to be worshipped and how he wanted his offerings, and they disobeyed what God had outlined. And they were part of the priestly line. They were part of the line of the people. The people looked up to the priests to be that example of those who can go before the Lord and who sacrifice and make atonement upon their behalf. So God made an example of them. And I just think it's powerful to see that, especially because you see God's grace a lot too in the Old Testament. Like you look at Aaron, like even here he held his peace. Aaron knew what went wrong, but even when Moses went up to the mountain, came down, and the people had made a golden calf, who helped them make that golden calf? It was Aaron. God just has a lot of grace for us and shows us a lot of mercy. And I think sometimes we miss that because we just see the immediate judgment and action that he takes in the Old Testament, and we don't see we don't focus on all the good that he does too. Well, the whole thing is good, but we don't focus on all the mercy and grace that he shows throughout the Old Testament because we're so focused on the parts that we don't want to see. So that was Leviticus. And then in Revelation, I just like this verse in Revelation. That's why I chose it, if I'm being honest. Revelations 4, 8 through 11. And the 4 living creatures, each of them with 6 wings, are full of eyes all around and within. And day and night they never cease to say, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty, who was and is to come. And whenever the living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to him who is seated on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders all fall down before him, who is seated on the throne, and worship him, who lives forever. They cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Worthy are you, our Lord and our God, to receive glory and honor and power. For you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created. I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever read Revelations to me is a hard book to read. But what's very obvious in Revelations is the praise and worship that is happening in heaven to our God. Because even in chapter 5, if you drop down and read verse 12, it says, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing. There's just so much worshiping happening, and that's why I added this, because I think sometimes we forget. Our lives can get very busy, and we go through the motions. Sure, we pray, we read our Bibles, but sometimes I think we just like we forget to be still and rest and find comfort in God's presence, we forget to worship in His presence too. And that is something I'm working on and learning that I need to be better at, and just moving forward and doing better. Yeah, that's day 4. So even in the devotional I wrote, holy fear is awe, honor, and humility in the presence of the Most High. This does not mean distance from God, but drawing near with the awareness that He is not like us. He is holy. When we lose our sense of awe, we risk approaching God lightly when He is worthy of everything. And that is where I will end today. I guess I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, as I've been trying to post daily and just, keep things updated. I am posting like many verse mapping graphics if you guys want to check those out. I also created a highlight so you can see everything there. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next one.